Breakout by Susan Dingle and Maggie Bloomfield.
Welcome, everyone. Thank you for coming out. Thank you to the Jamesport Meeting House, and special thanks to Richard Wines and Jeff Halleck for inviting us here. I am Maggie Bloomfield.
I'm Susan Dingle. We are so happy to be with you tonight to reprise Breakout, our show about how we got sober on opposite sides of the country, but from the same land of denial. One on Broadway and one in Hollywood.
It was a long time ago that we last performed this show. At the East End Fringe Festival in 2017 at the wonderful Vale Levitt in Riverhead.
That was BC.
Before COVID. Nobody ever heard of fentanyl back then. It hadn't taken over the drug scene. But now, pharmaceuticals from China are sold through Mexican cartels, and so many people, young and old, are dying from fentanyl overdoses.
Not to mention gun violence, black people being killed by police, neighbors killing neighbors, excused by stand your ground laws.
We were not going there tonight.
When were books banned and replaced by AK-47s?
When did families start posing with guns for Christmas cards?
Lord have mercy.
When did vaccinations become a religious issue?
When did women's bodies and reproductive rights come under state control?
When did governors get to choose what's taught in school?
When did immigrants start getting bussed in Martha's Vineyard?
When did school shootings become the daily news?
Lord have mercy. But we're not going there tonight.
Right. We just want to share our experience, strength, and hope with you.
Because we're still here.
Did you see my glasses?
Even if we're not all there. Tonight, our stage directions will be read by our dear friend Linda Bullock, who has graciously consented to help us create the illusion. It's an illusion that we are bringing our story to the women at the Riverhead jail.
Probably because someone who worked there invited us to.
Our reading will be followed by a Q&A led by someone everybody knows, a leader in the recovery community, our dear friend Patti Kelly. Where are you, Patti?
And do welcome Linda, our narrator.
And we also want to thank Chip Williford, host of Poetry Street, who will be videotaping us tonight. Thank you.
Breakout by Susan Dingle and Maggie Bloomfield. Based on poems from the Hollywood Dreamcatcher by Susan Dingle and Broadway, Booze, and a Song of Life by Maggie Bloomfield. Two women enter stage left and step up on a stairway. They are about to enter Riverhead Correctional Facility. They have never been here before. It is outside their comfort zone.
Remind me again why we are going to prison?
It's not prison, it's jail. It's where poor people wait for sentencing when they probably should be in rehab.
Yeah, they wind up here after a few DWIs or a minor possession charge or maybe some boosting.
Boosting?
Shoplifting. You really don't know what
We called it liberating back in the 60s.
Same thing.
We're coming to them because they can't come to the fancy rehabilitation centers where we do our workshop. They don't have the right kind of insurance or disposable income for rehab. They don't know the right people.
You know, it's amazing I didn't wind up in jail.
Just another yet for a couple of white girls who didn't yet run out of privilege.
A cop pulled me over one time.
Did you go out with him?
I don't remember.
Curtain rises on table with large plastic bins. This is the security area of the jail, adjacent to the large waiting room. Maggie and Susan are escorted by a corrections attendant behind the table. The corrections attendant puts 2 plastic bins on the table for their belongings that can't go through security. That's when they look up and see the large sign labeled "Instructions for Visitors." They read the sign as they comply with the instructions and place their belongings in the plastic bins.
Drug dogs on patrol. Visitors must remove all items from pockets.
No medication, no hats or belts, no sweaters, jackets, coats, or hoods.
No sunglasses, except prescription. No hair rollers, pins, clips, barrettes, no jewelry.
As the dialogue continues, there are loud metallic sounds, the squawk of a loudspeaker, an indistinct voice issuing commands.
Oh, come on! I need my jewelry. I can't believe we can't wear jewelry in here.
It's a jail. They don't allow accessories.
That's just the inmates. The girls will love these earrings. Do you think I'm overdressed?
No way. We need to look our best. We're role models. You start, okay?
Maggie and Susan signal to the corrections attendant that they are ready to go through the metal detector. They continue speaking to each other as they go through the metal detector. We hear the sound of a metal grated door opening and the echo of their footsteps as they walk down a long corridor toward the inmates' area.
Why do I always have to start?
Because I'm shy. And you've been on Broadway.
Well, even though you're shy, you were in Hollywood.
Being a failure in Hollywood is not the same as being a success on Broadway.
Being a drunk on Broadway is pretty similar to having been a drunk in Hollywood when you think about it.
It's amazing that we have these parallel experiences.
It sounds pretty exotic, but a drunk's a drunk. And we've got the poetry to prove it, right here in these books.
So we share our stories of addiction and recovery.
We have more in common than divides us.
We want them to know where we came from, where we really came from.
The prison of addiction, where you might look together on the outside, but you're a train wreck on the inside.
And you think it's really working for you.
Scene 2. Maggie and Susan stand in front of the all-purpose meeting room where chapel services and 12-step meetings are held. The room is very brightly lit. They look over several rows of metal chairs in fixed rows. The audience consists of women of all races and ages between the ages of 20 and 60, all wearing drab green uniforms. Maggie and Susan look over audience and see familiar faces.
Oh my God, is that Karen? She was in my treatment group 10 years ago in the rehab. Karen, hi! I still have the necklace you made for me. It's a great necklace, I still wear it.
There's Angie. We met in social work school. She celebrated a year. She had a job. She was getting her son back. Angie, hey, remember me? It's great to see you. I mean, I'm sorry to see you here, but it's great to see you. Hi, everybody. I'm Susan, this is Maggie. We're poets, therapists, and women in long-term recovery.
We're proof that if you stay sober long enough and don't die, you will get old.
Kind of the good news and the bad news. We're here today because we want to share a gift with you.
It's a gift you already have. Your voice, your sober voice.
We want to show you how to use your sober voice so it will grow strong.
Strong enough to break out of the prison of addiction. Expressing yourself in words, written or spoken, can start you on a journey of self-discovery.
We share our stories today in poetry. Why poetry? Because that's how we do it. It's our thing, our truth.
Your truth may come to you in a different form. It may be that little voice that says, "What the hell are you doing?" Or, "There's got to be something better than this."
For me, that inner voice is the Holy Spirit.
It's what you feel when you're looking up at the stars or the ocean and you know you're not alone. We have all felt connected like that, right?
Then there's those other times when you just feel alone, cut off. Any of you know that feeling?
Like you really need a drink or a drug. We've been there too, and we could easily be where you are now. It's that thing called yet.
We haven't been to jail yet, but all I have to do is pick up a drink and I don't know where I'll wind up. So when I feel that way, I pick up a pen and write.
So we write about it, even though we've been sober for longer than some of you have been alive. We don't take our recovery for granted. We still just have today. So we write about that too.
I was just your average all-American white girl who thought I was totally unique and the rules did not apply to me.
Me too. Then I became your garden variety kind of slutty drunk girl. Then I got sober. Go figure. And now I'm a therapist treating substance abusers.
Me too. But nobody starts out wanting to be a drunk when they grow up.
I was a nice girl from Altoona, PA, who wanted to be a bad girl on Broadway. Preferably a star, of course. From the Weehawken side of the river. I never wanted to see the New York skyline. I wanted to be the New York skyline. As much a part as Broadway, the Village, and the Empire State Building, I wanted you to look from Brooklyn Bridge or the cliffs across the river, point to me and say, "There she is." I was pretty successful at being a bad girl. I thought if I just drank with the right people and went home with the right guy.
Ah, the right guy. See, that was my problem. I only liked the wrong guy. Any of you relate? Yeah, the dangerous guy who seemed like someone I had to save so I could be okay. Who I had to save was me, so I could be a better mother to my son. He was just a toddler then. I thought he'd be better off with his father while I got my life together. It was all bullshit, but I believed it. So I ran away from Park Slope to Hollywood, following that guy who said he needed me. He was lying, I was lying. By the time it was over, I was back in New York with nothing but a suitcase and a couple of shopping bags, and I still couldn't stop lying.
I was never really homeless.
I was never really homeless. Like sit on the curb with a cardboard sign, a paper cup, and no shoes, homeless. More like, does anybody have a fold-out couch? Maybe it was karma. Like, who needs a room? Just a long hot shower, a bar of soap that lathers up like a new life, and a clean towel. A day or so later, they asked who drank the scotch, and when can I leave? But I was never really homeless, like ride the A train all night homeless. More like, I like my life in shopping bags. One from Bonwitz, one from Bergdorf. I pack and repack and change them before the handles break. The bartender's friend buys around, doesn't ask questions. In the wee hours, bad things happen. There are worse things than being homeless. An SRO is a luxury, except for bugs in the mattress when my skin crawls. Or is that withdrawal? Or maybe it's karma.
Karma. What a concept. So 60s. So Broadway and Greenwich Village. That was my turf. So many things I thought I would never forget.
I forgot the 60s.
I forgot the juicy hamburgers at the corner bistro. I forgot that Dylan Thomas had his last drink in the White Horse and died in St. Vincent's a few days later, making him a poor role model. I forgot the pain of an audition with a hangover. I forgot the chill up my spine when music starts and my voice is golden. Forgot construction and grease paint smells. I forgot my brothers and sisters who performed in bonded ensembles meant to last forever, and the Grand Canyon loneliness in my gut the morning after strike night. I forgot leaping 20 feet in the air, no apology to anybody, till next time, each time I signed a contract. I forgot the glittering exuberance of opening night, scared shitless performing anxiety. I forgot waiting on tables, being number 200 at an audition for 6 singers. Chronic rejection. I forgot hooking up at auditions and going to Howard Johnson's for food before going to the theater bar to get shit-faced. Riding the subway downtown after midtown drinking for downtown drinking. I forgot all my music in a brown and white briefcase in a phone booth on Sheridan Square, which led me to drink and cry all night, when I could have drunk and cried all night without losing all my music. I forgot that aspiring to be a poverty-stricken artist included being both poor and stricken.
Me too. I tried to forget what I couldn't remember anyway. Consequences. What consequences? Other people had the problems, not me. Any of you identify with that? My mother knew something about recovery, so I asked her if she thought I had a drinking problem. She said I had denial. What the hell is denial?
Denial.
If I really had a problem with drinking, I wouldn't worry about it like this. I would just drink and not think about it. So, since I really am concerned, I'd worry about it frequently, like seriously, do I have a problem or not? That's proof I don't have a problem. A real alcoholic would never admit there's a problem. I just worry too much. I just need a drink.
Yeah, denial was easy because everybody else was doing the same thing. I have to say there were some amazing people floating around the village in those days. Writers, actors, artists, and poets, and I wanted to know them all, especially my favorite New York star poet.
Frank O'Hara.
OMG, Frank O'Hara. Yes, you, Frank O'Hara. How I wish we had shared cocktails at the San Remo, sipped espresso at the Figaro, bayseat at the gate, before staggering to the Cedar and crawling on all fours, back to Washington Square where everyone was cool, except you. Hot as hell for New York and new life and hopefully me, even though I know you didn't go that way.
Whatever happened to Frank O'Hara?
He died while partying.
What do you mean?
He got run over by a dune buggy one Saturday night on Fire Island.
The greatest New York school poet. Run over by a dune buggy on Saturday night. Another random casualty.
Yeah, like Prince or Michael Jackson Whitney Houston,
Or Philip Seymour Hoffman.
or whoever's next. Did any of you ever lose anybody to drugs and alcohol?
Is there any family that hasn't been touched by addiction, especially here on Long Island?
It's an epidemic.
Maggie and Susan show a graph from the National Institute of Health depicting drug-related deaths. In 1999, there were 20,000 deaths. The blue line rises abruptly and steadily. There were 106,699 drug-related deaths in 2021.
But you never think of that when you're out there, do you?
Hell no. It's all America Blue.
This is America Blue from a crack house.
Oh, say, we could also clearly see the beautiful forest, spacious red sky at morning. Be warned, blackbirds screeching, preferable to the fucking chirping, pissed off, hissed off blue jays, so proudly hailing the twilight's last dulling through bliss blunt, hangovers, bangovers, what's supposed to be a working Tuesday. Like anyone except Jesse could tolerate the head squeal of the number 7 to work, wondering how the iPod crowd across the car manages to do this every day. No crowd hailing as the kaboom shatters her prefrontal cortex and limbic longs for amber waves of Jack Daniels. The honey Coke spoon remembers the ping of said spoon banging the syringe that mainlined Jose, lying smack on the door floor, dying, clack house that cracked, pipes open, when dawn's early light brought neon sirens. Neighbors busted Tyrone over the Purple Mountains, majesty of his girlfriend's left eye. Loud bitch finished his dope. Jimbo's dropped cracked crumb on all fours, crawling the carpet of fruited plain of ecstasy. Bright striped club kids raving over Dumbo-eared plates of K. God shed his blue light on this brotherhood neighborhood, garbage head frat house and rehab, doing good for the man, teaching trade tricks from the mountains of meth, and blow to the ocean white with dust, liberty crowned with bundles, kilos, condoms, welcoming the trash, tired, the hammered, poor, yearning to breathe.
And don't forget the families of all those kids who overdosed. All those families missing someone. All those kids thinking, that will never happen to me. That's denial.
Remember we used to call it sex, drugs, and rock and roll?
The sexual revolution. Do you remember the sexual revolution?
Barely.
Sex was the answer to everything back then.
Well, the sexually transmitted diseases didn't kill you then.
It was exhausting. So I went to grad school, got married, had a baby, and became a feminist.
A drunk feminist.
I tried to control my drinking. I drank only with members of the Park Slope Socialist Feminist Daycare Collective.
Not me. I was a saloon drinker.
I got kicked out of saloons. I was a militant feminist.
A drunk feminist.
I got divorced. Brave feminist. But I was afraid of being a mother. I wanted to be a writer. So I gave my son to his father. I'll never forget the silence when my son left. I found a film director who needed a writer. I thought he loved me, but he was just using me. I couldn't see it. Turned out my son was the one who needed me. I was blinded by denial.
This is the backstory.
The month before my son turned 3, I got a call from LA in the middle of the night. My ex-boyfriend, the filmmaker, needed me. His first video at the American Film Institute had bombed, and if I didn't come out to LA right away and write a screenplay to save him, he was finished. He promised this time would be different. No hitting, never again. Only if we get married, I said, and he agreed. I told myself maybe this time he wasn't lying, so that's why I left. I left my son at 2 3/4. That's right, I left. I left my job, my place in Park Slope, my mother, my friends, my therapist, and I took my typewriter and flew west into the sunset. And when the plane landed, I arrived, and now writing is all that I have left. But I thought that was good, and I will achieve enlightenment. Now LA will be my India, my Tibet. Now I have arrived.
On the veranda of the American Film Institute in Beverly Hills.
If God ever needed a location for heaven, he might choose this mansion in Beverly Hills, where one morning I see Gregory Peck out walking in the labyrinth between the boxwoods. On the veranda at the American Film Institute overlooking Beverly Hills beyond the smog, we greet famous agents and directors who lead seminars as if they are our future friends. Here, as in heaven, between screenings twice a day, you will soon forget you ever had another life, and will wish only for this one, where even if you are no one, you are in good company.
Sounds like you were living in total fantasy.
But I thought that was good, because I was in Hollywood, where there's no difference between fantasy and reality anyway.
I had the same thing, only I was on Bleecker Street. Who needs Beverly Hills when you've got Bleecker Street? And my #1 drinking buddy, she was tall like you, and she never let me forget it like you.
I can't help it. I can't help it if you're short.
I miss the Bleecker Street Saloon. Does anyone remember Sam, the barkeep? Where the hell did he go?
Drinking buddy.
I know where I went. Every night with my drinking buddy, actress Mad Woman, navigating village watering holes, 2 of us blacking out, scoring, riding home trashed with an intrigued postal worker in a postal truck. 4:00 a.m. Serious audition in 6 hours. We were stars of our own self-destruction. We knew we were special. Maybe we were special. We're both sober and still standing 50 years later.
In LA, I was the opposite of a star. I was 30 and invisible. I deserved to be invisible, but I had forgotten why. I had done something terrible. What was it? I was doing penance for Los Angeles.
Penance for Los Angeles.
Here at the window, I'm taking off my clothes. I'm a star from here to Palos Verdes, but nobody sees. I'm doing penance for Los Angeles. Here in the parking lot, I'm crawling on my knees while wicked Los Angeles flows around me, its million eyes eating up Sunset and Santa Monica, but nobody sees. I'm doing penance for Los Angeles. It's no sin to grow old, except in LA at night, if you don't make it in the business or your boyfriend doesn't love you anymore. Oh, you billboards, you palm trees, birds of paradise, and you, each new Mercedes. Maybe nobody is listening but you and me. I may be invisible, but I can see. I'm doing penance for Los Angeles.
Penance never occurred to me. I was doing everything right. I finally made it to Broadway.
You were living the dream.
And I hooked up with the perfect guy who was a real star and a real drunk.
Hello, Dolly.
I stand on stage in Hello, Dolly, watching tears roll down your face in this ridiculous courtroom scene. The song still plays in my head. It only takes a moment. I will take you home and live with you for a year while I live my dream. Singing on Broadway, drinking at the theater bar, Joe Allen's Sardi's, enjoying free tickets, limos, parties, and oceans of booze. And you, handsome, sought-after dancer, actor, recently divorced after nearly using your infant son as a basketball during an alcoholic blackout. On tour, while still married, you liked me. You got me work on the movie. Once we hooked up in New York City, I didn't care that you could turn, terrify me, freak out my cat. You drank even more than I did, and importantly, you paid for my drinks. Together, we wreaked havoc on the dream. The show was great, but the party came after curtain. We were always hungover and all bets were off. For the second show on matinee days, sometimes I was so sick I had to leave at intermission. An astute career move. We didn't get fired, there were too many other drunks on hand. As our disease progressed downward, I became an object of pity and contempt. You of rage, despite your extraordinary talent. Closing night, you vanished from me and from Candor and Ebb, who were seeking you out for their next show. Heartbroken, I drank more, languished down to 85 pounds. A month later, you called from California, shit-faced. Drunken conversations persisted, and I was certain I'd see you again. I started therapy, resumed erratic performing, and found my next alcoholic. 6 months later, you were murdered in LA by a male hustler, stabbed 111 times.
How did you find out about that?
His mother wrote me a letter because I was his girlfriend.
He was killed in a one-night stand.
A one-night stand. How lucky were we?
We didn't die. But when I left my son, I might as well have. I was nothing without him. I used to call him on the phone. You ever have to try to have a phone conversation with a 2-year-old? I'd get off the phone and cry.
Talk about denial.
It never occurred to me I should go home. I had no moral compass. I thought in LA I wouldn't need one. It would be different in LA.
We always think it will be different somewhere else. Anybody out there ever try the geographic cure?
Everybody said you have to have a car out here. But I said, not me. I'm from New York and I'm a poet. I will ride the bus.
Waiting for the bus.
If you have no car out here, you could spend all day on Fairfax waiting for the bus, watching the sun get set to set. You could forget you ever had a child. You could go wild, waiting for the bus to roll down Sunset, toward the Continental Hyatt House, where the rock stars throw furniture out the window. Each month, the billboards change like phases of the moon. I wish it would come soon. I wonder if anybody is anybody out there. I hear the voices no one hears. One of them is mine, but no one comprehends. Is this how it ends? At the American Film Institute, when I tell the writers and directors I rode the bus and wrote a poem about it, they back away from me.
That would never happen in New York.
The reason I got a car was the filmmaker, fiance, semi-boyfriend, whatever, got sick of driving me around looking for cars, and I got sick of him hitting me when he said he wasn't going to anymore, so I decided to buy the very next car I see.
Valiant, 67, blue.
Yes, it happened to be a Valiant 67 blue, originally white, but repainted after a front-end collision. Brakes so-so, transmission iffy, but it does come with 2 spare tires in the back seat and loads of room in the trunk. The guy said, my fiance said, he wouldn't be caught dead in a car like that, so I buy it. That car had karma, purified by an air freshener hung from the wind mirror in the shape of a tree, lily of the valley, overpowering the reek of mildew and sun-bleached plastic. At the Apollo Car Wash on Sunset Boulevard, Wednesday is Ladies' Day, and free psychiatric care with hot wax. My car and I glide along the tracks through sudsy brushes and jumping tongues, bouncing blue through steam spray and hot wax until we gleam like new and cruise out Sunset and Van Ness past red call letters stacked against the sky. Merv Griffin makes the stars shine. And I wonder if Merv likes poetry, and whether I should consider converting to Catholicism in order to meet him. Yes, that's it. At coffee hour at the Church of the Good Shepherd in Beverly Hills, where Merv Griffin probably goes. So I go there, and the priest tells me I must be a good mother because I can't stop crying when I talk about my son. I ask about penance, but the priest says these days they have reconciliation instead. The Inquirers group is all ex-New Yorkers, but the film director, my film director fiance, says I'll never make it in LA if I hang out with those losers, so I don't go back. But I miss that priest and that life-sized portrait of the Good Shepherd in the Technicolor sunset, who looks like he's looking right through you. But I had to do it my way.
I had no way. I was like smoke in a blackout. They called me Wifty. I was a different persona, Miss Alabaster.
Miss Alabaster.
Miss Alabaster had a great terror of flying. Knees and elbows cracked in flight and dresses blew over her head. Planes and birds shrieked gleefully at the surface cracks and the geese's quacks. In the stratosphere, there was little to say and less to do. Nothing to eat. She swallowed cirrus, spat out cumulus, blew past the sun in the ocean of her eyes, and laughed at God and the baggage handlers. White remains her favorite color. Pearl, teal, ivory, scarlet. She is quite the world traveler. if there were some place to go.
I can relate to that. When I was in LA, I thought I should be home with my son. And then when I was at home with my son, I thought I should really be in LA.
When I was at Bleecker Street, I thought I should be at Chumley's. And when I was in Chumley's, I thought I should be in the Lion's Head.
The only time I really felt at home was when I was on a plane in the air at 40,000 feet.
The only time I felt at home was when I was sure some guy wanted me.
Or in the movies. I always felt at home in the movies. I don't know which the American Film Institute hated worse, my screenplay or the video he made of it. They said, sharpen it up, make it more desperate. Desperate? I'll tell you, desperate. This is the voice of a dead woman's head.
This is the voice of a dead woman's head.
It's hard to find a friend in Hollywood land. Everybody's always on the go. Their white cars glisten, but they only listen to the radio. So I went to the zoo in Hollywood land. The baboons shook their bright red butts, but I said no. I don't like sledding and I don't like snow. The snakes were sleeping in piles along the glass. So I left real fast, afraid they'd hiss or make a pass or try to kiss me. I got so lost in Hollywood land, I wound up at the tar pits at La Brea. No one was there. Not a single mastodon was left to say hello. They're all out playing in the snow, though they leave their bones at home at La Brea. By Thanksgiving, I didn't have a prayer. No one was there, so I left my message on an answering machine and it clicked on and said, hello, we are all out playing in the snow. The jasmine spills its blooms, its night perfumes, and the jade flowers look like snow. And the gardeners roll up the sod on the lawns along Rodeo like they're God. God. By Christmas, there's a strangler roaming Eagle Rock. And I wonder if it's someone that I know. There's so much snow, you can't ever tell. But that all happened about 1 million years ago. A woman like this gets tossed into the pits by the tribe. 1 million years later, they dig up a skull in the mud. Still talking to the friends she lost in the snow. And she says, go eat a banana at the baboon cage. Be sure to get the sugar-coated kind. It's all the rage in Hollywood land. And the rage along Rodeo, where the roads get tangled in the mountains and the kids get blinded by the glare of the snow. And Hollywood's the only sign they know. Take it from me. Take it from me. Take it from me and take it from me. And God help all of you kiddies this wintry night. God help you. God help you. And this is the voice of a dead woman's head, talking live and talking to you, Hollywood land, and saying, hey, golly, hey, Holly, hey, golly, kids, and hey, golly. And you can say L-A-O-K, L-A-O-K, L-A-O-K. But it's hard to find a friend in Hollywood land. Everybody's always on the go. Their white cars glisten, but they only listen to the radio.
Sounds a lot like prison. A do-it-yourself prison. Yeah, addiction is like a prison where you can't get high and you keep trying to make it work, but it never does.
And you know it never does. But you don't think that's the problem. Life is the problem. The substance is the solution.
I thought my lifestyle was cool. It never occurred to me it was dangerous, that my life might be at risk. Cuddy, sir. in a seedy midtown hotel with an even seedier guy for a night of, who remembers? Ceiling caving in, plaster falling, bugs crawling, the sound of 5 a.m. birds exploding her hangover through the filthy window. She says to herself, "This is exactly where I'm meant to be." She hitchhikes cross country with an English actor, Hansel, to her Gretel in a children's theater production. She's going out to visit her drinking partner in Hollywood. Visit being a euphemistic term. She and Hansel are still harmonizing on how to burn the witch and her cookie crumbs too. Terrifying rides with strangers, dumped in the desert, picked up by the police in to-come-carry. Hey, she's okay. She has a bottle in her purse. Endless booze in Hollywood with poor, horrified Hansel watching a train wreck of alcoholics. Finally exhausted, she borrows money to get home. She doesn't know what happened to Hansel. He doesn't stay in touch.
They never do. Oh well. Easy come, easy go, right? People who don't live in LA can never understand LA.
People who live in LA can never understand LA.
Only someone from New York would ever say that. In LA, using cocaine can be a career move, and I was willing to do anything for my career.
My career was so important, nothing else mattered, not even my family. The truth was my career was soaked in alcohol. Auditions, rehearsals, even contracts signed in saloons. Holidays, my parents wondered what happened to me.
That Christmas in Hollywood, I didn't want Christmas to come, but it did anyway. I sent my son the biggest box of Legos I could find, 1,000,000 pieces he can put together beneath the tree instead of me.
That Hollywood Christmas.
That Hollywood Christmas. The answer to everything in LA is that white powder, once employed by Sherlock Holmes and Sigmund Freud, which, when sniffed, simulates intuition and stimulates the serotonin to the frequency of a pitch so perfect your next idea can make a phone ring and bring a 3-picture deal. Though yesterday no one ever heard of you, tonight you're out of sight in Malibu. The answer to everything is so white and quiet, drifting on the mirror like a lake. That must be why they call it snow. And we are skating together once again, little nostrils twitching at a mirror, Hansel and Gretel nibbling at the candy house, the halls all decked with the serotonin poised on point like ballet dancers. The perfect moment to call home. But my son's father answers, "It's 2 a.m. The boy just fell asleep after crying all day waiting for a call from you. No, I won't wake him. You really blew it this time." I cradle the phone. I hear the dial tone. The disco ball goes on spinning broken light, that Hollywood Christmas night.
My parents never knew. My mother used to beg me to write her. I rarely did. I didn't care about anyone or anything. All I wanted to do was drink.
You get to a place like that, it's so bad, you either die or something happens.
You never know where recovery is going to start. I sure didn't. Watch out for the musicians, my friend said. This is what I never expected.
What I never expected.
on a drunken bus ride to dreary American towns, playing a junior in high school at age 27, was meeting a shy boy with a magical guitar who avoided eye contact, a challenge to this self-proclaimed sex goddess to nail him, amuse herself on the road. What I never expected was a bottle of Cutty Sark in a boy's briefcase. Rescue buoy for this alcoholic. A sensation slipping into a pocket that felt like home. What I never expected was the passion of a young man so intent on owning me, it made me laugh. It made me ache. The conflict at the end of the run, how do I get rid of him? How do I hold on to him? Such perseverance. Most left after a while, recognizing an appetite for self-destruction that couldn't be contained.
Sounds like this guy actually mattered to you, like you really cared about him.
Yeah, that was a first.
I had a first too. A meeting in Bel Air at the home of a famous producer, an old family friend, who mentions he's divorced and didn't see his kids on Christmas because they hate him. I say, oh, what a coincidence. I too have a child I didn't see. He's 3, living with his father back east. So then the famous producer asked me,
what the hell are you doing in LA?
what the hell are you doing in LA? And I tell him about poetry. And he tells me, if I think LA is Oz, I better take Toto and go back to Kansas. So I tell him, I love movies more than anything. So he gives me a script to read, and the former fiance comes right over and apologizes for having the affair he told me I was paranoid for suspecting. But the reason he had the affair was with a network executive for us, to advance our careers. And suddenly, I know a lie when I hear one. And I never wanted to kill anyone before, but now I do. And a couple of days later, I'm driving down Santa Monica, and I can't stop screaming in the car with the windows closed, though the rain is pounding down like an apocalypse of tar thudding on the car roof, like a monsoon is the answer to a prayer for rain. And I think I must be insane when a loud voice inside my head says, what if there really is a God and he is really, really angry at me? But doesn't that only happen in the Old Testament? Not out here in LA where God could care less. And I see myself like a Hollywood sign for Hollywood sinners. Karma in the car, spinning at the wheel like a local Jonah swallowed by a valiant 67 Blue, and Hollywood's the only sign I know. Take it from me. A sinner in the hands of an angry God who could care less about LA and more about my son and loves me anyway. I hear that loud voice say, turn around right now. So I pull a U-turn on Santa Monica in the pouring rain, swerving across the lanes. Now my screaming has stopped and my eyes are dry, because sometimes you can only see where you're going when you go back the way you came.
Surrender. For me, surrender was like passing through a doorway and leaving the hell I knew to take the risk on finding the hell I didn't know, or taking a risk on finding a better life.
Threshold.
How neatly and coldly toxicity curved into my palm. The pleasant sound of clinking ice, not revealing what was on the rocks, weighing my shoulders into the ground with varied aches of betrayals, guilt, despair, an instruction manual for numbness, a blackout print for getting through each painful day. Mirrors offered the face of death, not a calm surrender of the breath. I couldn't quite shut it down. That little voice saying, there's got to be something better than this. Call it conscience, superego, God, whatever. Or was it you, my love, calling me a destroyer? Honorable you, value system intact, your music, the string that tied me to you. I must have loved you, despite the contempt I held for anyone so like me. Your pocket seemed a resting place, a familiar, comfortable hell and heaven. Your pronouncements fractured my defenses, offering clear-eyed truth, lacerating, bleeding out the mirrored fragments of myself. I couldn't quite shut it down. The voice repeating, there's got to be something better than this. A way to grace. And then, there it was. Shining in the faces of those who went before me. I ran toward change on crippled feet, a smoky room, a village street crowded with those who would have me. Last call! Beneath a tin ceiling on a window shade were steps, a roadmap for the journey of recovery.
It was over.
It was over. I had to go home to my son. He was the important one. It rained so hard the day I left, the cameraman saw a blank spot outside his window and wondered what was gone. The trees lay like bones at the pit of the canyon. It rained so hard the day I left, the sound man heard a rumor. Coffins rose from swollen ground in the Hollywood cemetery and floated down Santa Monica, but they never noticed me pull away from the curb and disappear into the rain the way the trees feel and coffins rise the day my son saved me.
What I never expected was a lifetime of years. Despite the toll of blind blackouts, betrayals, the wary acceptance of change, the cliches of domestic rage, toothpaste tubes, dirty refrigerators, betrayals, I never expected love to breathe and build on forgiveness and endurance. I never expected to stay.
I made it to the plane, the red eye, taking off into the sunrise, the city disappearing into the deep night, the last trace of a place called La Ciudad de la Madre de Los Angeles, the city of the Mother of the Angels, where no one ever mentions the mother anymore, detoxing into the sunrise on the red-eye flight. I wish I could say that after detoxing on the red-eye flight, I was reunited with my son and we lived happily ever after. But I was still trying to make it work in showbiz, back in New York for 3 more years. Out of work, homeless, not homeless, getting work, losing work, telling myself I can make it, until one day I was served with a subpoena seeking to terminate my parental rights. I could either commit suicide or call a lawyer. So partly out of desperation and partly out of spite, I got sober and stayed sober.
Recovery is long and slow.
I'm 2 months sober, and my son is 7 years old. When we get to start, I get to start all over as a non-custodial mother. A non-custodial mother. Isn't that a contradiction in terms? But these are the stipulations of custody.
The stipulation of custody.
Our visit alternate weeks can never last longer than 5 hours, no matter how long we hang out in the diner. When it is raining, the library is our refuge. In spring, the cherry grove near the river. We climb fallen branches, play frisbee. During the transit strike on Palm Sunday, in the pizza place in Co-op City where your other family lives, I tell you the story of Joseph and his coat of many colors, how man may intend it for evil, but God intends it for good. In winter, I take the 5:20 a.m. from Grand Central to the hockey rink in Stamford, Connecticut. You score 3 goals in 1 game, a hat trick, and I cheer from the bleachers, a hockey mom, like any other hockey mom, who wakes her boy each day, makes his lunch, and puts him to bed at night. The stipulations of custody forbid contact between visits. Only in person do you call me Mom. Sometimes you forget and use my first name. It hurts, but I forgive you. When I want to dispute the stipulations of custody, a lawyer says, "Did you ask your son what he wants?" Your answer is immediate. No more fighting. So I relinquish my just claim. This is called forgiveness.
We even learn to forgive ourselves. Eventually, I learned how to talk back to the negative voices in my head.
To the voices in my head.
I do not apologize to you. I do not apologize to you. I do not apologize to you. Nothing I could say could wash away your indignation at my being me. What you see is not what you see, what you want me to be. If my eyes were brown instead of blue, it would not satisfy. You want me down, and I am up, 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 designed to overflow this cup of life, regardless of how many no's you hand me. With supposed affection, focused on control, I have another role. Not daughter, friend, or wife, not slave to negative ambition, I have another mission. To move, to dance, to grow as tall as redwoods if I choose. Despite your bullying childhood taunts, the labels that haunt the poorest nature of my past and future. The wild child you call slut, resenting the guts I have to navigate existence without resistance. It's your insistence I drum from my mind, unwind the tapes of no, 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 refuse to ooze into the mold of old, old, old. I'm finishing your diminishing, dismissing your idealizing, your list of perfect features that sabotages God's perfect creatures. The message is the message. It's a mess about age. You clutter up my stage. I'm whiting out the page and covering it with rant. Don't tell me I can't transcend the ravages of growing old with the power of my rage. Your messages of no, of stop and end must go. I do not internalize, for I will be recognized. I do not apologize. I do not apologize. I do not apologize to you.
So that's our story. That's why we believe if you stay sober, pick up a pen and write like your life depends on it, you will find your true voice, just like we did. And that voice will help you stay sober and find joy in your recovery.
And all you need to start is a paper and pen.
And the willingness to begin.
And write. Your beautiful, sober voice is the gift you already have.
And nothing can take it away from you as long as you stay sober. Thanks for listening. We love you guys.